that wind, the dangers. This is where the most deadly effect is. The storm surge from central Louisiana to Grand Isle, about 10 feet of surge, 4 to 7 feet as you move further to the east, 3 to 5 feet in New Orleans, and heavy rain. This area has already seen a lot of rain in the last 7 days. Well, they're going to get anywhere from 2 to 4 inches per hour falling. That means more likely we're going to be seeing very severe flooding and storm totals, guys, upwards of 12 inches, especially along the southern Gulf. But as we get into the Mississippi River Valley,
some bad weather, guys.
Why are you talking about weather right now, bro? You understand? You know what I'm saying?
So this could help, but those folks right along the Gulf are in harm's way.
We'll see you bright and early tomorrow, Al. All right, on the Today Show. Thank you.
Why are they talking about weather right now?
We'll show you the biggest debate moments of Kamala Harris and Donald Trump as they gear up.
Oh, yay. Yo.
In person for the very first time. It's coming up right after this.
No quiero. Okay. I think we're on like an ad break or something. Is that good? I think we're good, bro. I should have got a Celsius and just tweaked today. Is the sound still coming through for the NBC though? Yeah?
I think it may come to the screen, but it's okay. You can hear it.
Should have got a Celsius, bro. Start tweaking.
What, are you tired?
No. I'm falling asleep at work again.
Oh, yeah?
I think it's because I started eating bad again at the fair.
Yeah.
Speaking of fair.
Speaking of fair, speaking of everything, what's going on, guys?
Speaking of everything.
Yeah, speaking of everything. Oh, man, this is going to be interesting. Yeah, they're doing some kind of break or something right now, so. But.
So it's said to go live at 9?
Yeah, it's going to get going live on 9. We're watching this on NBC, which, you know how that is, you know. I'm going to move this down a little bit, but.
Can I see if the chat's working?
Yeah, it should be. You guys, hit that like button, subscribe. I'm not gonna start that already, but
yeah.
Yeah, for sure, guys. We got it. This is gonna be fun. This is the first time they're gonna go face to face, and I think, my opinion of it, I think it's gonna be the only time. I don't think there's gonna be another debate.
I am so excited for this. Like, no way.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because if you can see that, you need to be above me in. I mean, you're in there.
I'm in.
I know.
Good. I'm in better than you are.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. This is our special coverage of tonight's presidential debate between Vice President Kamala.
I don't like NBC at all, man. They're talking crazy already, bro. I don't like it.
In its entirety, once it begins.
I don't like it at all.
Okay, maybe we need a switch.
Switch what?
Well, no, we're already on ABC.
Yeah, we're on NBC. It's too late.
So what can we expect? We have a closer look at their biggest moments from past debates and what they can tell us about what we could see tonight.
We need to go to Fox.
I mean, no.
They could like do something.
What, cut it off or something? They would never.
Cut it off or cut Donald Trump's mic or something.
Tonight, the first face-off between two candidates with different prep, different styles, and different experience. For Vice President Harris, her first time stepping into
Here's some highlights, Corey.
election spotlight after memorable moments in primary and VP debates.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. I'm speaking.
Harris, no stranger to the stage, from early in her career to her Senate run in 2016, when her opponent awkwardly dabbed.
So there's a clear difference between the candidates in this race. And I think the voters will make that decision.
Allies point to Harris's past as a prosecutor and arguing her experience helps shape sharp arguments.
Whatever the vice president's claiming the administration has done, clearly it hasn't worked.
And Harris drawing on her personal background, like in this key exchange in the 2020 primary with her future boss.
You also worked with them to oppose busing. And, you know, there was a little girl in California who was part of the second class to integrate her public schools. And she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me.
But Harris has had to play defense too, like in another debate that cycle, accused of hypocrisy.
This is gonna be bad.
A more progressive position in a crowded primary.
There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana.
I love that girl.
For his part, Mr. Trump has more debate experience as a presidential nominee. In all, most recently in June, a showdown that ultimately ended President Biden's presidential run.
We finally beat Medicare.
Their
Dude,
first ever debate in 2020.
he's about to demolish her for real, man.
Savage, huh?
This is gonna be fun, I said.
I know.
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it. You want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name.
supremacist and right
Like me to condemn.
white supremacist and right
Proud boys, stand back and stand by.
Then candidate Trump's first debate against Hillary Clinton in 2016 still holds the record for the most watched ever, 84 million viewers. At later face-offs, the two sparring over foreign policy and Russia's Vladimir Putin.
Girls into me, bro.
What? All right, y'all.
Look,
It's pretty clear. Mr. Trump memorably
I see.
Into me, bro.
I see.
on stage.
All right, guys. We are live. We got 30 minutes till this thing gets going.
Primaries, responding to a crass insult about the size
it's gonna
of
be
the
super fun, dude.
Yeah, I know.
Look at these look at these highlights.
Harris
I know.
made good on past pledges. I wiped the floor with him. But according to the rules,
Kamala's wasn't even highlights. It was D highlights.
Now, some of those moments that you just saw may be mitigated by the rules we've been talking about at tonight's debate. Think about those mics muted when it's not each candidate.
Yeah, the mics are gonna be muted. That's gonna be interesting. That's gonna be very interesting, actually.
Each candidate must stay behind their microphone. No stage wandering, a la 2016. Lester, Savannah.
All right, thanks so much, Hallie. For more on what we can expect from both candidates tonight, let's bring in President Biden's former White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki and Donald Trump's former Deputy White House Press Secretary Hogan Gidley. Good to have both of you here today. Jen, let me start with you. I think it's fair to say a lot of Democrats were rattled by those latest New York Times.
Yeah, this is
Is part of the vice president's mission.
It's gonna be fun.
Tonight
It's gonna be fun for sure.
Democratic voters that all is well.
I think it's part of the mission.
Yeah, it is.
The other part of the mission is to think about that 28% and that same poll of people who want more information about her. So what's tricky about this, Lester, if you're the vice president, is a lot of Democrats out there have been waiting for somebody to eviscerate Donald Trump. They might, progressive Democrats and other Democrats who might be rooting for that. That is not the right strategy for the totality of this debate, because that 28% who want more information, who want to know more about her positions, that may not be what they're looking for.
But she has the most to gain or lose because she has 30% roughly of the electorate that's still curious. Hogan, as I bring you in here, Donald Trump, I mean, for better or for worse, it's a very calcified, set in stone opinion that people have. Some love him, love him, love him. Some do not love him, love him, love him. So what is his number one job tonight?
I think what he's going to
And that's the thing with watching this on NBC, man. You know they're gonna be attacking Trump constantly. Even
But
when,
it's working better for him.
Yeah.
Forget her record as vice president.
People remember they could afford gas and groceries just a few short years ago. There weren't wars breaking out all over the world. We had a rational, sane southern border policy. So he's got to remind people.
Why do you keep on leaving, Corey?
At the same time, but he needs to
What?
stay on message. He needs to focus on what
Make
the
sure it's
American
lined
people
up
care
with the
about.
Well, you already did.
And not run rabbits. There's no doubt she's going to have those can lines ready to go, those contrived stories like she did in the package that you guys just played. Look, she called Joe Biden a racist and a rapist on a debate stage, had merchandise ready to go, but she couldn't parlay
Oh,
that
wow.
into anything positive for her campaign. She'll do that to Donald Trump tonight. The question becomes, will he follow her down that trail, or will he stick to the points that the American people care about most?
And Jen, does the vice president have to have things that she wants to remind the public about in terms of history?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, one of the challenges for her is that every candidate wants to be the change candidate, right? You have a former president and a sitting vice president, so they're not the natural change candidates. She has to figure out on this debate stage how she can both embrace part of her record that people may like, and also build on it and tell people that she's going to do something different. That's very tricky.
Sounds like you're saying she has a higher bar.
She does have a higher bar. I think there's higher expectations for her. I will say, I'm not sure that looking in the past, that's not what the public is really looking for. We know that from every election ever. People want a forward-looking plan and vision. So the other part of what she needs to do is tell people exactly what she's going to do. Do you think she's
I know.
made it
I listened to it in my ear.
at this particular moment because she hasn't
Right here.
But you have to look, because the earlier, it was you were hearing the audio late, so I fixed it.
Does that just ratchet up the stakes when they don't need to be ratcheted up any higher? I actually think the biggest challenge for her is that she's never met him before or interacted with him before. And she is a studious, thorough prepper, which I think is good no matter what political party you're from. That's a good thing. But it also means you have to let go of those briefing books and be in the moment. Donald Trump is not a standard, traditional policy debating candidate, so it requires a different
Right.
muscle.
Yeah, they're gonna try to agitate Trump for sure. That's gonna be one of their big plays.
Yeah, just real quickly. It's interesting because
Were you reaching to turn the light off?
there's no doubt about that.
No.
The problem with Kamala Harris
Oh,
is
turn it-
every
I can
time
turn it
she
down.
starts to say, I promise you,
They're gonna try to agitate Trump, man. That's gonna be their whole thing.
But you're the sitting vice president right now. Either you can't do those things or you won't. Either way, I don't think the American people are going to buy
You
it.
both know him very well. Lar Trump just told us a few moments ago he's going to be calm, cool, and collected. Raise your hand if you think he will be.
Like always.
Yeah.
He's always
Is it the worst thing that could happen to Kamala Harris?
If he is calm, cool, and collected, I'm not sure it's the worst thing, but I think she is going to hopefully not take the bait. I think the Clinton advice is good advice to her. Don't take the bait, try to bait him a little bit. That would be a win for her.
All right, Hogan and Jen. thank
She's
you
gonna
very
lose
much.
it. She's
Yeah.
gonna lose control.
She's gonna start going crazy, you think?
Yeah, bro.
Spoiler alert, it's very, very tight. And how tonight's debate could shake things up. We're back right after this.
Here we go again with the pause.
Yeah, I know. I don't like that either.
I don't like it either.
But it is what it is, man.
I'm worried about you.
It shouldn't be.
I got a candle.
Huh?
I got a candle.
What do you mean you got a candle?
Smell good for the house to smell good.
Let's not talk about that right now. Guys, I'm gonna mute that while it's going on. There's no need to hear all
You can
that.
still hear it.
No, you can't. Guys, I'm gonna mute that while it's going on. But
Oh,
yeah,
really? That's coming from the thing.
there's no reason to have that playing right now. I'll leave it low so you can hear in the background.
Yeah, bro.
But yeah, this is gonna be interesting. How much time we got left?
24 minutes and 22 seconds. No, I'm just kidding. It's something like that, though.
24 minutes. So, do you think you were talking about the bets? People are placing bets, guys, on like what's gonna happen, and we thought about maybe, and he thought about it.
Dude,
didn't see
I
all
could
of it.
totally do it. Okay, look. So, this is what I was looking at.
So one is saying that Kamala will say weird, and I don't think she will.
No,
don't think she will.
I said no.
Yeah. Where Trump say border 15
Yes.
or more times?
Yes.
I don't know about 15.
I'm gonna say yes.
I'm gonna say yes too, but I think. Okay, so if he says like borders are, because that's what he's been saying a lot, does that count?
Yes,
Calling her
absolutely.
the borders are?
Yeah.
But is borders are a different word than border? How are they judging?
No, that doesn't count.
Okay. So I don't know then. Because he's gonna call
Will
her
Kamala
border.
say I'm speaking?
I don't think she will.
I don't think she will
That'll make her
either.
look bad.
Will Kamala say convicted felon? Yes.
I don't know if she'll go that route, dude.
I'm going yes.
You think so?
Yep. Will Trump say Elon Musk? I'm saying no. Corey's saying yes. Will Trump say MAGA more than 3+ times? I'm saying no.
I think he says it once at the end. All right, we're back live. Guys.
Dude, we can win some bets now.
Begins in less than 25 minutes.
And tonight will be a critical
See,
moment
they
for
lied. No, they lied.
This is a-
It was 24.
He said less than 25.
Before election day.
Oh,
Steve
gotcha.
Kornacki is with us tonight at the big board to break it all down. Where's this going?
Yeah, right.
Close, and let's put this in some perspective here. What you're looking at is the
Oh my God. Yeah, right.
Fake news.
national polls that are out
Fake
there right now.
news.
So the running average we keep Harris at a 47-45 for Trump. 2-point lead there for Harris. Obviously, Democrats like that, but some context for that. First of all, there's this. Donald Trump has run from behind both previous times he ran for president. At this same point, 4 years ago in our poll average, Donald Trump was trailing Joe Biden by 7.8 points. And at the same point in 2016 in our poll average, Trump was trailing Hillary Clinton by 4.5 points. Now it's only 2. So yeah, Trump's behind, but this is closer than he's been in the polling in previous elections.
Yeah.
And there's also this. Remember in 2016, Trump lost the national popular vote to Clinton, won in the Electoral College. In 2020, Trump lost the popular vote by a wide margin to Joe Biden, almost won in the Electoral College. Is there going to be a gap like that
Did win.
that works to Trump's favor? An Electoral College
Definitely
advantage?
won.
That's what you think about when you look at this.
North Carolina, yeah.
Dude, yeah, right, bro. That's us. We are not voting for that clown show.
And you see
We ain't voting.
obviously, these are
They got Harris up in North Carolina by 0.01. That's baloney.
Carolina average right now. Trump by a half.
That was
a point.
0.1.
These are very, very close. Although you take a look and you see one here that's a little different. That's Wisconsin. Harris on average just over 4 points ahead right now. This was.
I think Kamala wins Wisconsin,
a single
maybe Michigan,
in 2020.
and that's it. I think Trump wins Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm with you there.
I think she will win Wisconsin and Michigan though.
Michigan too.
Possibly Michigan. It could be close.
Blue collar white populations where Trump has run up very big numbers. The polls didn't sufficiently capture that in 16 and 20. Is that going to be different in 2024, or is there more Trump support in some of these states than it appears in the polls? That's a major question to think about.
Of course
You see
it
the
is.
Numbers come out, and then you just see in this column right here.
I've never taken a poll. Where did these polls come from?
Where's tonight's
You know what I'm saying? That's my question.
The state that is first among equals when it comes to battleground states. 19 electoral votes.
Where did these polls come from?
More than any
I don't
other.
know.
What does that mean functionally? If you're one of these campaigns and you lose Pennsylvania, mathematically, if you want to offset that, you got to win at least 2 others to make up for the 19 that you're losing out on in Pennsylvania. This is the king of the battleground states.
Steve, I know
Yeah.
to bring it back in memories, but weren't we were here until Saturday, the week of the election, waiting for Pennsylvania?
That's right, 11:30 Saturday
Yeah.
morning, 2020.
Oh my God.
That's ridiculous. Saturday?
Okay, well, we shall see.
The election was on Tuesday, and we didn't know
Next guest
where
was
Pennsylvania went until Saturday.
hear from candidates tonight.
That's 100% robbery. That election was so fake.
Bamboozled.
Hi, Savannah. Yeah, we're at the Churchville Inn. It's a restaurant in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. That's right outside of Philadelphia. This is a county that really could be pivotal in the state of Pennsylvania. And as Steve was just saying, it could be pivotal. Pennsylvania, as it goes, could be pivotal for the whole election. So we gathered 3 voters with me. They are all undecided voters. Each one of you is registered differently. We have Lynn Keller, who's a registered Republican and a realtor here in town. We have Hannah Reed, an independent, a mom of 3. And then we have Andrew Wallace, who's registered Democrat and owns this place, by the way, the owner of the restaurant. What's interesting, though, is you all cannot decide. And Lynn, you told us that you find Trump, I forget your word, reprehensible. You really don't like the guy, but you find Harris, you said that you don't understand what she stands for. She needs to explain. What are you looking for tonight?
For me, the
Election is a decision between economics and morals. I like some of Trump's economic policies.
Yeah.
I abhor him. Quite
Because
frankly.
of his morals.
Because of his morals or lack thereof.
That doesn't make any sense.
But she, I think, is talking a lot of fluff. She hasn't said anything substantive. I don't know that she has the experience or the wherewithal to lead this country out of the economic situation that we're in.
I'm going to note, all three of you voted for Trump in 2016 and then changed in 2020. Now, let me go to you. You said you're very frustrated going into this debate. Why?
Because the election itself is no longer about policies. It's no longer about the real issues in this country, like the economics or the inflation.
You don't like the name calling.
The name calling. I mean, the back and forth. It's about who can get one over on the other, to the point that we are not pushing policies through just because the person that put it through was from another party.
And Andrew, let me ask you about your issues, because we were talking earlier. You like some of the things. You're really big on policies that Trump supports, and then you're also really big on policies that Harris supports. You don't know what you're going to do. So what do you need to hear tonight?
I feel left behind by the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party, Harris received 0 votes. I would like to have a say in the primary, and they didn't give me that. I feel that they think that they know what's best for me. Harris hasn't said anything. Harris's policies, a lot of them, have just been stolen from Trump. Taxes on tips, putting up the border wall.
True.
She's had said absolutely nothing of her own with her own ideas. So I'm waiting to see anything from her that is an original idea and not stolen from the other candidate.
Guys, we're going to watch this debate.
He's definitely a Trump supporter.
It's an instant focus group.
He's 100% a Trump supporter. He bamboozled y'all.
Yeah, he was trolling for sure.
Craig served as White
He wanted to say that so bad on live, bro.
Yep.
by playing George W. Bush. And Judd Gregg is a former senator from New Hampshire who prepped George W. Bush by playing John Kerry. And Senator, let me begin with you. You know, the candidates are sort of
you a tongue tied there.
yes, it's not easy.
Is that dude okay?
Harris folks
Is that Don
want
Lemon?
to put forth her and introduce her to people who don't know
I think it's
a lot
Don
about her
Lemon.
right now. Is this a
Yeah, I
good
think
time
so.
for any candidates to change who they
Look
are,
it up.
who the viewers and voters perceive them to be?
I think, isn't his name Don Lemon? Maybe I'm getting him mixed up.
People can't
He may be
change
CNN.
themselves. Really, these debates turn on a few things, I think. First
Maybe
is
I'm
your
true.
mannerisms, and especially when you have a split screen. If you'll remember when George
14 minutes, guys. 14 minutes.
He looked at his watch and that affected
How long is this supposed to last? An hour and a half? Yeah.
Al Gore rolled his eyes and made all sorts of facial disparaging types of movements. And then,
I'm gonna light a candle.
Of course, in the last debate, it was
Light a candle.
President Biden just looking like he wasn't there.
Let me see how it is.
So the physical
No.
activity on the stage is really critical. And you gotta
No.
act like you're a serious person in a serious event. Secondly, you've got to be substantive. People, this is about the presidency of the United States. People expect substance, they don't expect gamesmanship.
Right.
If they're a little self-deprecating humor, doesn't work. That doesn't hurt. It's nice to know that the person can connect with you because they are willing to talk about themselves in a humorous way. And so those three elements are really critical to defining an individual.
Yo, you think Kamala's gonna laugh?
But you can't change
100%.
just for a debate. That's impossible.
She always laughs.
It's fun to talk to both
But they've been
of you
telling her not
because
to.
we're,
I hate her laugh.
Actually play the opposing candidate, so we know you from politics, but apparently you have acting jobs as well. Greg, as I turned to you, you helped President Obama.
I think I'm gonna stay up all night
as well. So if you were
and
advising
clean
Kamala Harris,
on methamphetamine.
what would you tell her to do? Because
Guys, he's
obviously
joking. You just knocked the camera.
unlike any
Guys, he's joking.
I agree with that. I think on the issue of
Do you think we could lower this so that we
I
can
like
see
it like
straight?
I like it like that.
Like it is?
the
Yeah.
real challenge, I
think it
think,
looks
is
good.
managing Trump, because
I think it looks great.
We're small on there though.
I think it looks great, bro. I
wish
like
we-
that though.
You think? I wish we were a little bit bigger. I'm gonna have to figure that out for the next stream.
I don't think so. What do y'all think? Comment.
Hey, we got 3 likes. Thank you guys so
We're going
much.
nuts on
Appreciate
subs.
it.
We're doing it's going to be a stream of consciousness.
Guys, hit the like button. We got 12 minutes so this thing gets rolling.
So I'm going to be interested in finding out how she manages to deal with him. I think he's likely to get under her skin more than she's likely to get under his skin. And is she going to lose it? She would probably have every right to get angry or emotional or lecture him. But I think if she manages this guy in this debate,
This guy.
she'll be president of the United States.
Not easy at all, but nice to have your perspective. Speaking of an interesting perspective, there's only 2
Who is
people
that
speaking
farm
right now who've
guy?
actually moderated general
Look at that hairline, bro.
debates, which I would like to say
Look at that.
Yeah, he needs to shave it off at this point.
Kristen Welker here. Hallie's done some primary debates.
Yeah, what in the world?
This is next level. Lester, first of all, without triggering you.
I saw a debate where it was saying a Republican or Democrat women better looking.
2016.
It's definitely Democrat.
They're better looking.
Oh yeah, there's not a debate on that. It's annoying, but it's true.
You're a solo out there. You've got your back is to in this giant room full of people, and there were estimates of 100 million people watching. At the same time, it's such a privilege to do things like this, but you're getting people are, leading up to it, or is he going to fact check you? Every time you turn on cable TV, they're talking about, what they think.
So they said Hillary was giving Kamala tips. I don't know why.
Felt the same thing, but I think of David and Lindsay.
Trump killed Hillary in that debate.
It's definitely not. And when you talk about feeling lonely, part of that is because
I don't think anybody can beat Trump in a debate. Like, you know what I mean?
I think the only person who could beat Trump is Trump, but even then,
Huh?
like if he you know what I'm saying? If he just doesn't, sometimes he can go on these rants and not answer the question. You know what I'm saying? That's the only, if he but even still, what he's saying is still better than anything she's saying, so it doesn't really matter.
I'm so excited. I love the debates.
I know. Yeah, we saw what happened last time. I wish they would allow the audience, man. If they had allowed the audience, dude, that would have been so awesome.
The criticism is quite harsh for a moderator who's either.
I saw this comedian and he was saying that even if there's 2 people and it's not Donald Trump debating,
Yeah.
Donald Trump needs to walk in. Like, and just be there,
Are we
you
gonna
know?
get a vice presidential debate? Like Vance versus Walls?
I don't care about
I
that.
know, but I mean, it would be so nice to hear.
Really?
Walls he's really bad.
He's wacko.
He's horrible, bro.
He's
Vance would
wacko.
destroy him, bro. 100%.
I have not seen much of Vance at all.
I've
I'm gonna be honest with you.
RFK Jr. I wish he would have been the vice president. RFK Jr. is amazing, and he came out today, guys. I don't know if you guys have seen.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Came out today and endorsed Trump in every state. He said, no matter what state it is, vote Trump. A vote for Trump is a vote for me. So,
It's the way we're gonna get in the whatchamacallit, he said.
what?
It's the way we're gonna get in the
Because Trump's gonna bring him in.
Several minutes to feel the room, feel the temperature of the
10 minutes or 9 minutes, guys.
The other thing is,
Hit that like
a
button.
lot of debates, including presidential debate, I swore a long time ago I would never publicly judge a debate moderator. It is an incredibly difficult job, and my hat's off to anyone who's done it.
absolutely.
I have to do this to see, and I'm not at the frame when I do that, so I kind of want to lower it.
But you know exactly what their stomachs feel
I
like.
can see so good, bro. It's like,
I'm gonna lower it.
but you can also see in there. I don't like that. From a penny.
That's better, dude.
Tornado.
It shows too much of us. I'm gonna bring this up. Right there. That should be good. That's good, yeah. Sit back some, man. I hate this couch.
Excuse me, guys.
I'm gonna pause it again and
That'd
they
be
went off
fun.
air.
That'd be funny if nobody was at the fair right now watching because everybody's watching the debate.
Nah, bro. There's definitely people at the fair. There's a fair going on where we are, guys, and 100% there's gonna be people watching.
At the fair.
Bro, what is going on these commercials, bro? What they got tampons?
That's not
on
a
or something?
commercial. That's for the boys' bathroom.
Who is that? Who is that guy? They took a break. We got it, what, 8 minutes ago or something like that, guys?
Yep.
So
8 minutes.
this is gonna be interesting, guys. Hit that
I'm
like
about
button.
to hit the meth, so I'll be up in a little bit.
Dude, he's joking. Nobody on here does meth. I don't even know why you're joking like that, dude.
Huh?
Oh my god. I gotta go into work after this.
Dude, that sucks.
I know.
I gotta clean the house after this.
Dude, that sucks.
No, it actually doesn't. It's gonna be spotless and it's gonna be nice. I'm gonna have to math after.
So they said that Russia was or involved in the election interference with Russia, whatever, for Trump. Then Putin comes out and endorses Kamala, says he would support Kamala to win. So kind of like messed up their whole thing.
Did he really say that?
Yeah. Well, of course he wants Kamala to win. He said Trump,
Yeah.
He said Trump is, was a lot harder on him. So of course he wants
said
Kamala.
that?
Yeah.
Wow.
As the media was trying to say that Putin was trying to get Trump to win. Because they try to say that Trump, and Putin are buddies and friends and whatever. But, he came out and pretty much said he hopes Kamala wins.
Yeah, of course he does.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Now is NBC News Now.
Welcome back to our special coverage of tonight's presidential debate between Vice President Harris and former President Trump.
The debate is set to begin just minutes from now. It'll be the first time Harris and Trump meet each other, and it'll be in front of the entire country. Tonight also could have a huge impact on the campaign, less than 2 months out from Election Day with a...
Oh, yeah. There it is, Corey. That's what I needed.
So let's go back to the debate hall in Philadelphia, the spin room. Tom Young
It works,
is
bro.
there. We're just about 6 minutes
I'm taking
away
my
now
shoes
from the
off,
start
bro.
of this debate, which we will carry in its entirety. Tom, are you starting to feel that buzz of energy?
No.
Oh, you do?
Look at him.
We'll tell you something I've noticed is different about this debate. Usually the spin room gets wild and crazy post-debate. What I'm seeing for the first time is pre-debate spin. You've seen surrogates on both sides sort of flank all the reporters, flank all the sets from all the different news organizations.
There's a crowd?
To get their message out.
Media. It's media. It's not a crowd now.
RFK Jr. came into the spin room. Of course, he was the third-party candidate who has since endorsed...
RFK Jr. is there.
He was followed by, I'd say dozens of reporters as he walked through the spin room. We're hearing kind of the same things. Both campaigns are disciplined. They are on message. The Harris surrogates are saying the same thing. Former President Trump is the most experienced presidential debater. This will be his 7th debate. And also, they want to go over reproductive rights. That a vote for Trump is a vote that will limit abortion access. And on the Trump side, of course, they're hammering the issue that Vice President Harris tested.
They're gonna try and lie on that.
But he's leaving it up to the states.
I know. There's this whole Project 2025 thing that came up, and it says
So our video's not gonna come out until after this?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna. What are you talking about? The one we did Monday?
Yeah, and talked about this.
Yeah, no, I'm not even gonna post that.
You're not
I'm gonna post other stuff. Let's focus on this though. Let's not get off track.
Well, one of the biggest challenges for Vice President Harris is I've been talking to a lot of sources that are familiar with
God. Okay, I can't do that.
To differentiate herself from President Biden. Former President Trump is going to try to make her own every single mistake that he believes President Biden made. And there's been a lot of tension among the Harris team about whether or not she should throw President Biden, under the brush figuratively. And
under the brush.
disagree with some of the policies, maybe even the withdrawal.
Can you understand what she's saying, or is this just me?
She's going to say, I serve at the pleasure
I understand.
of the president, and I agree with everything that he did. But she has to, in some ways, really carve out what the Harris administration is going to look like and why it's not going to just be a third term of the Biden administration, or the second term of the Biden administration, rather. And the other thing that she's really going to have to do is not get pulled into personal attacks by former President Trump. They expect him to, at some point, maybe lose it. They're going to try to bait him a bit to try to lash out at her. But she really wants to remain calm because her biggest thing that she wants to do is really introduce herself to undecided voters and voters who might not be familiar with her background, her middle-class background.
I don't get why Trump would lash out. He doesn't even know her like that.
Her team really make sure that she defines herself. So that's also a big challenge that I'll be watching for how she does that. Back to you.
All right.
That is
Thank
true.
you so much. And let's turn now to NBC's Dasha Burns, who covers the Trump campaign. And
3
joins us
minutes.
Now, we're hearing from the Trump campaign about the preparations tonight.
Well, look, Savannah, you've heard the former president say time and again that he does not do traditional debate prep, that campaigning is his prep, but we are told by sources that over the last few days he has been hunkered down at Mar-a-Lago. He's been doing extensive policy sessions, and watch for him to do two things tonight, two things that his campaign wants him to do. Number one, tie Vice President Harris to President Biden, make her own what's going on with the economy, what's going on with immigration, and number two, remind voters some of the positions she took back in 2020 when she was running for president that were left of center, try to paint her as simply too liberal for those moderate swing voters in places like the suburbs of Philadelphia. Of course, that is the plan, that is what the campaign wants, but it's all going to be about the execution in the moment, especially if Harris tries to bait the former president.
Why am I nervous? I'm not even debating. Imagine what they're feeling right now.
Let's bring back Kristen Welker and Hallie Jackson.
You think he's nervous right there?
The vice president has cast herself in
Oh, yeah. Who's that
Are they
on the left?
Democrats?
Yeah.
Both of them?
Yeah.
That's what I thought when I looked at them. Maybe not.
The one on the left for sure is. I've seen her before.
Absolutely. When I've spoken to allies who are close to her, they say
She was a moderator once.
is getting
Yeah, see?
specific but not too specific. She's got to tell the story of how a Harris administration would differ from a Biden administration. That word we keep using, change. How would she change things right now? Does she acknowledge to some extent that the economy is not where she wants it to be, and really lay out in more detail what she wants to see? Yes, she's going to prosecute the case against Donald Trump on a range of different issues. She'll accuse him of switching his opinion, particularly when it comes to the issue of abortion and reproductive rights. But again, she's got to walk that fine line.
But she also has to answer for some changes in her own positions. Of course, she ran for president in 2020. She came across and positioned herself as a much more progressive type of candidate. Now she's really moving to the middle here in a general election.
Crowded primary, right back in 2019, 2020, she has moved away from that on issues like, for example, mandated gun buybacks for automatic rifles, something that she no longer supports. Fracking, for example, something that she has changed her position on as well. You look at Medicare for All, a position that she's backed away from. Watch for the
She hasn't backed away from any of those things.
Issues. And I'll tell you, to bring it back to the voters, that panel with Kate Snow was super interesting. The economy came up again and again. And
30 seconds, guys. Democrats will say whatever they can to win. They don't.
2021. People don't feel great about it right now. So how does Vice President Harris address that moving forward?
Let me briefly go there and talk about his physical
But we got 20 seconds.
Bro, yeah, shut up, y'all.
Has tended to be more rambling, disjointed in many of his answers at a time that we were focusing on.
Yeah, 10 seconds. He wants to get something in briefly.
Now, of course, the over candidate now.
Okay, we will be back with you. It's the top of the hour now, 9 o'clock.
We won't be back with you.
In Philadelphia, the room where it's about to happen. We're just seconds away now from tonight's first and perhaps last presidential debate between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump.
As we've noted, this will be the first time these candidates have met in person.
Okay,
It's happening
yep.
on a debate stage, also the first debate since President Biden left the race over the summer and Harris became the Democratic nominee. A lot has happened in a very compressed period of time.
Yes, it has, and we have a few moments until the debate starts. We will join it. ABC News is broadcasting it, but we will simulcast it right here in its entirety. It's taking place at the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia.
It's 9:01.
There will be no audience tonight. The candidates' microphones.
Yeah, it's taking the one that's hosting it is ABC.
What are they doing right now?
They're not probably not starting them right away at the exactly at 9, so they're just yapping.
Mix it up rather early in this as they stake out their positions and we get a sense of where all this is going.
And the mics are muted when the other is talking. So let's take you to Philadelphia now and the first presidential debate of 2024.
Here we go, guys. Starting.
Good evening, I'm David Viewer, and thank you for joining us for tonight's ABC News presidential debate. We want to welcome viewers watching on
That Kamala's
ABC
sister?
and around the world. Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump are just moments away from taking the stage in this unprecedented race for president.
And I'm Lindsay Davis. Tonight's meeting could be the most consequential event of their campaigns, with Election Day now less than 2 months away. For Vice President Kamala
She's
Harris,
definitely pro Harris. This is going to be very rigged. I'm hearing that she's already gotten the questions. She already knows what's coming.
This race has taken on an
And she's already, prepped.
Let's
as
just
far as
see
that
what
goes.
happens. Come
I know.
on.
I'm just saying. That's what I'm hearing.
Commercial breaks. No topics or questions have been shared with the campaigns. The candidates will
Yeah,
have
sure.
2 minutes to answer questions, and this is the clock. That's what they'll be seeing. 2 minutes for rebuttals and 1 minute for follow-ups, clarifications, or responses. Their microphones will only be turned on when it's their turn to speak. No pre-written notes allowed. There is no audience here tonight
As
in
the
this
note-
hall at the National Constitution Center. This is an intimate setting for two candidates who have never met.
President Trump won the coin toss. He chose to deliver the final closing statement of the evening. Vice President Harris at the podium to the right.
So let's now welcome the candidates to the stage. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
Yeah. Looks like they're about to box.
Kamala Harris, second base. Thank you.
Welcome to you both. It's wonderful to have you. It's an honor to have you both here tonight.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
So let's get started. I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their number one issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living
They shook
in this
hands.
country. Vice President Harris, you and
course.
President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid.
Okay.
And I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams
she's
of the
tweaking.
American people.
She's tweaking.
And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing. And the cost of housing is too
she's not
expensive
gonna make
for
it.
far too many people.
And now
We know that young
She
families
looks
She's
nervous.
their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year, because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world.
is he sick or something?
The tariff will be substantial in some
Trump?
cases. I took
Yeah.
in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because it was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has
gonna
been a
lose it.
disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado.
They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that she and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you, on this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name-calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas. I guess some good, some bad. But it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounced back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit, but I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris.
Good.
So, Donald Trump has no plan for you.
What?
And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy.
What is your plan?
What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
That's just a soundbite that you ever had to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. Just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan.
She's
She doesn't
fuming.
have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this because
Called him Mr.
your plan,
President.
as
I
what
love
she
it.
calls, is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll be higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have, and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration.
True.
We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response. And you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is under Donald Trump's
She didn't answer the question.
he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's not to my philosophy. If she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist.
That's
Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals.
She's creepy.
That's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you often
Oh, God, here we
you were
go.
able to kill Roe v. Wade last year. You said that you were proud
Here
to
we
be
go.
the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed reversed course and said he would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
So the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, is doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's an execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions. Very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. And now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It's
Very good.
to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage.
Very good, dude.
And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump
Stop saying his name.
3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. They did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime, a violation to their body, does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term, they don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban, because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states. And the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart. And they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it
Well, I won't have to because, again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50, essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of when they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then her, I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. He went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea. And how unfair that would have been, part of the reason they lost, to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I did discuss it with J.D. in all fairness. J.D., and I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. So wonderful, let's go to Congress, do it. But the fact is that for years they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government, and we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade, and as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking
Guys, we can't spend an hour and a half on this one subject.
to the women of America and understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working women
He literally said
who
last
are working one or two jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body, and that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President.
Excuse me, I have to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask that question?
Why don't you answer the question? Would you
Because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer the
Wade,
question.
you
Would you veto?
could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look at the former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said, we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans,
Yeah, get off.
Democrats, voters across the board in this
It's such a
country.
dumb thing.
Vice
Thank
President
God.
Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your
That is
desires.
so not true.
I've been to one.
You deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I promise you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the board.
First, let me respond as to the rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's busing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify, you're in Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is
the people on television say my dog was taken, and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
But the
television.
people on
I'm taking it from
television
the city
saying the
manager.
dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice
We'll
President
find
Harris,
out.
I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme. This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if you didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor
He's
has said
fuming. He's fuming.
his former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, will give you a quick minute to respond.
Yeah, thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people, not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people whose were just killed, viciously and violently killed, and I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire, they should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper, he was no good, I fired him, so he writes a book. Another one writes a book, because with me they can write books, with nobody else can they. But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy, look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists, they have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S. military. You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah. It is much higher.
Did you say yeah?
They allowed criminals, many, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it. Because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down, all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But
excuse me, the FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud. Just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich, coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear, where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA of New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024
It's boring.
is taking place. The United
Yeah, I mean,
States
they're
Supreme
not.
Court
I don't think
recently
either of them
ruled
are
that the
really
former
answering the
president would
questions.
essentially be
They're not.
immune from any
It's not boring.
if he were to enter the White
What do you
House
want to
again.
see?
Understand, this is
A fight?
openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy. It was a fake Russia investigation that went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of it, at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking, because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States, and in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases
drilling
for
for oil.
fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values
What does she keep going back to
the
that for?
importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then file bankruptcy 6 times is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name-calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well, first of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now. Please. Does that sound familiar? She went out in Minnesota and one of the criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get him out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish one thing, so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead, fossil fuel will be dead, we'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400, 500 acres of desert soil. These are not good things for the environment, as you understand.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is the cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I asked, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar, remember that.
There's that border czar award.
She doesn't want be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, well, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America, they're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world, and crime rates are down all over the world because of it. But when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted?
Oh, that's a good
Or in
one.
Seattle, they went into Seattle, they took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask
You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes, sir.
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the President of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated
9:48.
situation.
Okay.
Let's remember Charlottesville,
Dude, we got.
where there
Oh,
was
We got a whole hour, bro.
God.
spewing
No, not quite.
anti-Semitic
Yeah.
hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side. Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia,
What?
the president said, the former president said, stand back and stand by.
She just called him the president.
So for everyone watching who remembers
They
what
tend to
January
do that.
6th
I know.
was, I say, we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to
What are you
end
thinking so far?
the approach that is about
I don't think nobody's
attacking
making
the
that.
foundations
And it's
of
not
our
affecting
democracy,
anything.
because you don't like the outcome.
People who are going to
I
vote for
think-
Trump
I
are already
think-
going to vote. People are going to vote for her are going to, you know what I'm saying?
I think
has said in this election there will be a blood
I think
when he tried to ask that question, he was trying to make him
this election is not to his
say yes or
liking.
no, and he handled that
Let's turn
well.
the page on
Yeah.
this.
He's
Let's
handling
not
it
go
well,
back.
but ABC is
Let's
definitely
chart a
biased. They're
course
they're on her side.
I know, but
It's
he's
very
handling
obvious.
it well.
Backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where Bloodbath was. Also, one Charlottesville. That story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jessica, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this, you talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do. The President of the United States, you'll get him out of bed, you'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you'll say, come on down. If he signs a bill, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed. People are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us.
Up out of bed at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
For 3.5 years, after you lost the 2020
like me.
election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won. You won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short. Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge it at all. I said that sarcastically, you know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. They should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. They get almost 75 votes, the most votes any city president has ever gotten. I was told that I got 63, which is what I got in 2016. You can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. They're trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker, we didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases.
Who is you?
Many judges.
Who is he talking to the president like that?
We didn't have standing.
Who does he think he is?
They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The President of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you do a special on it, I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you, we have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter, because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news, and the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by whiskers, so he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us, we won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election.
It was not free or fair, and you know that. Everybody knows that.
I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did in fact lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just say about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president. But when this weak, pathetic man that if you weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but I'm okay with it because I think we're going to do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them. Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how. Saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis. Many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and in equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up. Far worse than people understand what's going on over there.
Yeah.
But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror. And they are spheres of terror, horrible terror.
What I wish Trump would say here is, but besides all that, I'm more concerned with what's going on here.
They had no money.
I can't stand this talk about this stuff. What's going on here in America is what's important.
No, that's what he's saying. He's a threat. They're a threat to America.
I know, but who really?
Because the money.
But he's still saying what's going to happen with Israel, what's going to happen with Israel. We need to be worried about what's going to happen here in America.
And fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love
He did not say
letters with
that.
Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these
Fine.
dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear they can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on
Vice
national
President Harris.
security, including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
They're the ones, and she's the one that caused it, that's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it. Because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me.
So
Very
true.
good
It's so
response.
true.
That's a very good
They're
response.
weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just asked one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way, gets paid a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution Center right here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
Oh man, this thing is. It feels like we've been long. It's been longer.
I know.
guess it
It feels
hasn't.
like it's been hours.
It feels like it's been a while.
We've just been sitting here for hours.
Let me see this real quick.
That's what I'm looking at. Where's the comments?
Where's the remote at?
I don't know.
I want to mute this for a second. Oh, how did you get down there?
You had it.
Guys,
last.
what do y'all think so far? They went on a. We're gonna have a 4-minute break here. They went on a 4-minute break. What do you guys think so far? Let us know in the comments what you got. Man, this is pretty. It's tiring. It is tiring to hear them talk, both of them, because they're not really answering questions, and the questions are so. You can just tell when they ask the questions, they are favoring Kamala for sure. It's very clear. But
It doesn't matter.
Trump's doing well. I think if I were to say who's winning right now, it's a hard thing to say. Let me see. I want to see what the people are saying right now as far as who's winning. I'm gonna go on X. Maybe I shouldn't go on X.
Probably not. I don't probably have anything on there. Of politics.
Okay. All right.
Here, I got you. I got you.
Listen.
I get it.
I think Trump's handling himself well. Kamala's not doing horrible. She's holding her own.
Twitter's probably having a field day with this.
What is this? Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm trying to see. I mean, there's a lot of people.
Trump is cooked. Is that what it says?
Yes. So, the thing he said about the eating the dogs was a bit wild. I was like, what? What in the world? Like, what? That was kind. It was like, what in the world? Where did that come from? So
I wouldn't doubt it,
they're
bro.
stealing people's pets in Ohio and eating them or something. He said,
I wouldn't
cats,
doubt it,
dogs.
dude.
I was like, what? What is
I
that?
wouldn't doubt it, bro.
I mean, it may be happening, but I didn't know what that had to do with anything. They're eating pets. Yeah, that's what he said. Oh man, yeah. The abortion thing is crazy. I'm not seeing a whole lot right now. I'm trying to see these live polls and see who people think is winning. But yeah, what do you guys think so far? It's been pretty crazy to say the least. Trying to see, there was one place that had a poll of like who was winning live, but I don't see it anymore. We got another minute until we're back live. They took a commercial break. But yeah, what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments for certain what you think about what's happening so far. It's crazy. It's definitely crazy. This is not exactly what I think people need to see. I think we're still seeing a lot of name calling, back and forth, stuff. But it's the way it's
It is
going,
what it is, bro.
The way it is right now, it's like we're 30 days out from an election. Of course, it's heated. It's like it's so much on the line. I think Kamala's done more name calling than Trump has. Trump is sticking more to like her policies being bad. She's more attacking him as a person. We can't let this person back in the office because he's more personal attacks coming from Kamala. Trump attacking their policy more than personal. So yeah, I mean, we got 10 seconds. I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing back going. But it's been pretty interesting to say the least. I'd say Trump is probably winning in my opinion, but I could see some people maybe, I don't know. I don't know if you could.
I don't know if it's a win-lose kind of situation here.
I would say I don't think, maybe nobody's winning right now.
Yeah, I don't.
But Trump's doing better. He looks better in my opinion.
And you're gonna think that though.
Yeah, that's what I said in my opinion.
Same.
Live from the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia.
I think she really took over, and now we got the end.
Welcome back to this historic ABC News presidential debate tonight. We're going to continue here, and I want to turn to the war in Ukraine. We're now 2.5 years into this conflict. Mr. President, it has been the position of the Biden administration.
Called him Mr. President again.
Must defend Ukraine from Russia, from
They do, bro.
to defend their sovereignty, their democracy, that it's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You had said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look, we're in for 250 billion or more because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin. Hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try to get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, And what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left, I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's... Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
They
here,
threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
just to clarify the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war? Yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done. Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President
Good
Harris. I
answer.
want to get your
It's not
thoughts
about
on
winning.
support for Ukraine in this moment, but also as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support
And
Ukraine.
he's still winning.
Righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now.
No, he
And
won't.
understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and please, I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow, quiet please, he would have been sitting in Moscow much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening, but he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war, because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin. And she and the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate as soon as they left. Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank
Yeah.
you. Bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one.
He didn't say
When I went
Putin.
to meet with President Zelensky,
He didn't
I
say
met
she
with
met
him
with
5
Putin.
times. The reality is, it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of
What?
caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is Commander-in-Chief. And the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Goldberg said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen. He's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you. Otherwise, we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down.
She doesn't say anything without bringing up Trump.
Government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this, and the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans.
What is she talking about?
Honor the importance of American diplomacy.
She's just talking. Literally.
Respected world leaders. And
That's not what he asked you. He asked if you take any responsibility.
as president, invited them to Camp David.
What?
Because he does not again.
Where have we
What are you
gone?
talking about, dude?
And responsibility of the president of the United States.
That's the problem, dude.
To be commander-in-chief.
Bacon's $9, and we're talking about Camp David.
And this gets back to
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, what?
Like, food is expensive. Like, we're having troubles living here, and we're talking about Camp David.
that we must do to
I mean,
uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America.
I hate talking about foreign policy. I just hate it.
Thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So, if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers.
She is talking about here.
With the Taliban, because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed.
Ah, what a savage! What a savage, bro.
$85 billion worth of military equipment. And just to finish, they blew it.
Sent them a picture of his house.
What did you do that for? You're gonna have to figure it out, dude.
Was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
It's on his house.
Did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country.
Oh, God.
Mr. President, you
Wait,
recently said the Vice President
race and politics.
I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. I want to ask you, why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care. All I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that, and then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think honestly, I think it's tragic that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was land, he owned buildings.
How many black people has she kept in jail for petty marijuana charges?
He refused to rent property to black families.
What?
Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5. Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first black president of the United States. And I think the American people
She's totally
better
white.
than that. Want better than this. Want someone who understands, as I do, I travel our country.
She's whiter than
We
Donald.
see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor. We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? Knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks,
We got 5 minutes.
have the same dreams and aspirations and want a
It's almost done.
president who invests in those, not in
Yeah, we'll see. It's probably gonna go long.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your 3rd time.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park 5, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad. And she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time's up.
I want to respond to that, though. I want to just respond briefly. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump.
What?
And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country. One who believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen
She's
our
a
small
creepy woman,
businesses,
dude.
which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans. And
You don't have one.
plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction, to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life, to help you in that most critical stage of your child's
No, that's government money. That's not, who's gonna pay for that?
That is about allowing people
Where are you gonna
to
get the
be able
money
to
from?
pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation, I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name-calling. Let's turn
He hasn't called her one name.
Thank you. Let's turn to policy. Let's turn
We
to
have
policy.
to move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy,
She has
please.
a plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
She has a
you have to
plan
move on
to
to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay.
That's what her plan is until just recently.
I just need to respond. The former president has said something twice that I need to respond to.
I'm sorry, we're gonna move on, Vice President Harris. President Trump, this is now your third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that.
It's like two children, bro.
Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better.
It's like two 4-year-olds are.
So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But remember this, I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up, they wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they'll get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private healthcare options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking, and then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away, so stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, just look at the
We'll get the
history
guns out of Walls' hands, that's for sure.
60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate.
Is it 10:30 yet?
The late, great
Yeah, it is.
John McCain,
It just hit.
who you have disparaged as being
Might go on for like
you
3
don't
hours.
like him, you said at the time,
Are you
because
serious?
he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to
It's
tell
expensive,
people
dude.
Remember what that was like?
Can't afford it.
Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow
What's that on her throat in the middle?
drug prices.
I know.
I've been looking at it the
creepy.
whole time.
It's the mask.
It looks like a barcode.
Since I've been vice president,
It's the
we have
mask.
capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care.
Bro, that's gotta be more than 2 minutes, bro.
Not just a privilege of
They just
those
let her
who can
talk.
afford it. And the plan has to be
Which is not
to
good
strengthen
for.
the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it.
Vice
That's to
President
pull up
Harris,
in
thank
terms
you.
of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's important for a
You
lot
made a
of
mistake. And number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another.
All right, guys, come on, end of the day. We're ready.
For insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President
Oh,
Trump,
God.
the environment, you say that
You
we
gotta
have
go,
clean
bro.
air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said that climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or is being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested
that all
in
the time.
clean energy to the point that we are
10:34.
opening up factories
Let me know
around
when
the
it's-
world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost
You're gonna have
manufacturing
to leave.
jobs.
When it's
And I'm also proud to have the
10:43, let me
endorsement
know.
of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
It didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these
Thinking about the eating the dog
What
thing.
they
What in
have
the
given
world?
to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it between him and his son. They get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night as ABC News.
Closing statements.
From Philadelphia. Back.
All right, guys. Closing statements coming up.
I'm ready to go to sleep.
We'll continue after this.
Oh, 4 more minutes. What time is it? 36. So we're gonna come back on at 40. All right. I'm gonna go pee. I'm gonna go get ready. I gotta go to work here in like 20 minutes, but hopefully they can get back in these 4 minutes, get these closing statements done, and then we'll we'll be signing off here. But I think towards the end, Trump is doing a lot better. In the beginning with the dog stuff, he kind of got off a little bit. It's kind of weird, but yeah, I think he's doing good now. I think he's winning the debate, in my opinion. Like I said, I'm biased, but whatever.
I don't think.
But like I said, I don't think this moved the needle for either of them. You know, Trump supporters are still going to vote Trump. Harris supporters are still going to vote Harris. I mean, you know,
I don't
think
know.
we
I
didn't
could
learn.
see somebody
We didn't learn anything
switching
new
sides.
from what camp.
Either one.
What? Okay. Well, I'm gonna be back.
Whatever, which one they thought they liked more.
How?
Because people have different thoughts.
They're not saying anything groundbreaking.
Why is it on mute?
Because it's a commercial going on.
What if it comes back? I don't know where it at. Huh? 240. 238.
238.
234.
What do we got? What do we got?
2 minutes. $55. I look wild right now.
Where we at?
$59 seconds.
Where we at?
57. $30.
I didn't move the camera, did I?
No.
All right, we got 15 seconds, guys, and then closing statements, and then we'll be heading out of here, guys. If you're still in here, like the video, hit that subscribe button. We're going to do a full breakdown afterwards. And yeah, should be good. So hit that like button to subscribe, and here we go. Closing statements.
We're back with tonight's debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump.
When it ends, please join us for analysis of tonight's key moments.
No.
We'll break it down as we enter the final sprint to Election Day. We'll go back to the debate and closing statements.
Live from the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
They're going to use that dog line like crazy.
David Muir and Lindsay Davis.
Welcome back tonight. The time has come for closing statements, and Vice President Harris, we begin with you.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past.
What?
And an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump?
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years.
Good.
They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like, we're not going to frack, we're not going to take fossil fuel, we're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching.
I don't like
Remember, you
David.
listen all over
We don't
the
know
world
who that
from
dude
all
thinks
of
he
us
is.
here at ABC News.
I don't like neither of them.
Me neither. But that David dude.
And look.
All right, you shut up, guys. That was long. Hey, you about to head off already? That was. It seemed longer, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
It did
but,
seem a lot longer.
Guys, we're gonna do a full video breakdown of this, talking about the good things, the bad things, what Trump could have done better, what Harris could have done better, all of it. We're gonna break it all down in a video that we're gonna make probably tomorrow. We'll try to get it out. What's today? Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, somewhere. Probably Thursday. We'll have it out. So stay in tune for that. Hit that subscribe button so you see that. Turn those notifications on so you get that post. Like this video. Let us know in the comments what you thought about the debate. We're gonna do, like I said, a full breakdown coming up here in the next day or so, and have that out for you guys. And yeah, it was very interesting. It's hard to say who won, honestly. Sitting here, I'm biased. I'm gonna say Trump, did better because at the end, like he said, all of this stuff that was said. She's been in office for 4 years. We are where we are. She hasn't done anything to change that. And if she was really about it, she would be doing it right now. So that's my take on it. Let us know in the comments what you think. Like I said, we got a lot more coming, and we hope you guys enjoyed that. I have no interest in what they're saying right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and end the stream. But we thank you guys. We love you. Like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Try to get to work. That one.